Diptyque Laurent joins us now for a browse through the main stories here in France. Diptyque, most of the papers are talking about Emmanuel Macron's visit to Calais.
Well, a lot of the French papers are indeed looking at that visit, Rochelle. After weeks of criticism for his handling of the migrant crisis, well, Emmanuel Macron is heading to the northern French city to sort of diffuse those political landmines. That's how France 24's reporters have put it on our website, as he meets with security forces and a migrant center. Calais is really a city that's become synonymous with the migrant crisis, especially the cross-channel migrant crisis. Macron is there really to present and defend his policy on asylum and immigration, which is rather controversial here in France. He's confronting the law of the jungle. That's what L'Opinion, the right-wing paper in France, says. A bit of a tongue-in-cheek headline there. Jungle, of course, in reference to that sprawling migrant camp that was dismantled. Now, I want to show you also a little cartoon from Libération, which reports that some activists have chosen to boycott Macron's visit altogether. The paper's cartoonist CAC has a pretty sour cartoon in the paper today showing Macron and his ministers at a fairground game, with the goal being to throw a migrant the furthest distance possible, the options being Libya, sub-Saharan Africa, and why not Antarctica. So a damning statement on Macron's policy.
All right, well, next, let's go to Chile, where Pope Francis is starting a highly controversial visit. Diptyque.
Well, as he heads to Chile and Peru, he faces he faces criticism over his appointment of Juan Barros to the head of a church wing in Chile. Now, Barros worked under Fernando Karadima, a priest convicted of sexually abusing multiple children over the years, and there are witness statements showing that Barros knew about it, even if he himself has denied it. Now, the Daily Beast says this might just be the tip of the iceberg, because as Pope Francis heads to Peru afterwards, well, he'll have to deal with a sordid Catholic cult in Peru that used guilt and the wrath of God to repeatedly sexually abuse minors of the Catholic movement. So his woes are definitely not over. No surprise then that the perceived complicity of the Catholic Church in sex scandals has turned many members away and off the church. One such writer in the Chilean paper La Tercera says during the last visit to Chile by Pope John Paul II, Chileans proudly identified as Catholics. Well, this time, Pope Francis will find a church that's, quote, beaten and discredited.
Right, well, away from Chile, Lebanese authorities have censored a new film called The Post by Steven Spielberg. It's about a journalist investigation of the Pentagon Papers. Tell us why.
Well, it's actually not to do with the actual content of the film, although it is ironic that Lebanon is censoring a film about journalists being suppressed from reporting, essentially. Arab News explains that it's all to do with Steven Spielberg's ties to Israel. Now, his blacklisting dates back to 25 years ago when he filmed Schindler's List, and some of the scenes from that film were shot in Israel. In 2006, the Arab League blacklisted him again after his foundation donated $1 million to relief efforts in Israel during that war with Hezbollah. Now, interestingly, it's not the first film to be censored in Lebanon, which is considered quite a liberal country in the Middle East. Most recently, Wonder Woman was banned because the lead actress Gal Gadot is an Israeli citizen. Now, just to show you a little reaction from the Jerusalem Post, an Israeli paper, they say it's simple. The Lebanese government is simply missing out on some quality cinema.
All right, well, the UK papers have been reacting after the death of the frontwoman of the Cranberries.
We've been looking at the Irish press in particular. Let's show you the headline from the Irish Independent. As tributes pour in for Dolores O'Riordan, she died of unknown causes in London. The iconic lead woman of the Cranberries had the voice of a generation. That's what the Irish Independent says, calling her a trailblazer in so many ways. And the Irish broadcaster RTE says she had the voice of a crestfallen angel. I quote, her plaintive voice was a thing of wonder, going from tremulous pain to banshee wail in the space of a few octaves. So they obviously paying tribute to her incredible voice. Her unexpected death was, of course, all the more tragic, given she'd recently revealed that she had struggled with the pressures of fame, but also was bipolar and depressed.
Those tributes, of course, keep coming in for the frontwoman of the Cranberries. All right, finally, let's stay with the Irish press for this next story, which talks about micro-cheating, apparently a new form of infidelity.
It is a new form of infidelity, and one you may not even be aware that you're doing, which is kind of the whole controversial part of it. The word has been getting some serious traction on social media because social media is seen as a vehicle for micro-cheating. Basically, if you constantly like or comment on someone's page, someone other than your beloved one, if you stalk an ex, if you PM somebody consistently without telling your partner, if you send suggestive emojis, and be careful because any emoji could be suggestive given the context. Well, these are all forms of micro-cheating. So the moral of the story is be careful next time you Snapchat or Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever. With social media, we're entering virgin territory when it comes to the rules of relationships.
We really are. People need to keep their wits about them in terms of that. Thank you very much, Dipti, for the roundup of the papers. Don't forget, if you do want to see more, you can always log on to our website. Of course, the address is the same at france24.com.